This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Going on here? What the heck is she? Okay, there we go. Now we got it. What's going on with StreamYard all of a sudden?
I gotta ask my producer.
My intro.
I was gonna say I gotta ask my producer what's in his cup of coffee. For a moment there, I thought I was Bill Murray in Groundhog Day.
In the words of Vince Lombardi, what the hell's going on out there? But anyway. Yeah, we had a little snafu there. Anyway, good morning. How's everything going? Welcome to the Big Football Show. I'm BA. You got James Martin here and Jack Hurst. Keith is trying to come on. And he is out to sea right now. And the weather is bad, so he'll try to get on here as if he can. So in the meantime, we are going to start off, of course, with college football. I'm going to give you the scores of the, let's see, how many games was it? 10 games, 9 games that were on?
Great preparation, Brian.
Yeah.
we can definitely say it was a great Saturday for football. I mean, it was excellent. A lot of good games.
Yeah, that was one part of the technical difficulties. What's up, Monkey? Number 1, Ohio State, 34, Purdue 10. That was to be seen. Indiana had a little problem with Penn State, but they still won 27-24. Texas A&M pretty much routed Missouri to 38-17. Number 4, Alabama, sorry, James, 20, LSU 9. Number 5, Georgia, 41, Mississippi State, 21. Number 6, Ole Miss, 49. The Citadel is nothing. That would be the Marines, by the way. Number 8, Texas Tech, 29. Number 7, BYU, 7. And yeah, they beat the crap out of BYU. Number 9, Oregon, 18. Number 20, Iowa, 16. Number 10, Notre Dame, 49. Sorry, Brian, Navy, 10. And, of course, Texas and Oklahoma were idle. Did anybody watch any of those? I watched like 2 games of this set. I watched the Indiana-Penn State game. I caught a little bit of the Texas A&M game, and I saw the Notre Dame Navy game. I turned that off in the third quarter because that was like overwhelming.
I saw North Carolina and Stanford. Yeah, I don't know, something about Bill Belichick, because I'm basically an NFL guy. I mean, by
You're
far
obsessed.
over college. Yeah. So
You're
I always,
obsessed.
I'm obsessed. Anytime North Carolina's playing, unless there's a major game, otherwise I'm going to watch that game. But I was watching, obviously, some Indiana and Penn State, and Penn State loses, but I don't want Penn State fans to get all happy. Oh, we came so close to beating the powerful
Your
Indiana
moral
Hoosiers.
victories.
No moral victories. Consider that Penn State was supposed to be a contender for the national championship at the beginning of the year, and they've had a disastrous season. I don't want to hear how close they came to beating Indiana. It doesn't mean anything, okay? Bottom line is Indiana escaped with a victory. Penn State had an opportunity actually in the last possession, in a minute left to get into field goal range, and they just didn't execute. Okay, so bottom line with that. And getting back, North Carolina beating Stanford, Bill Belichick's really built a solid defense. I mean, when North Carolina was dysfunctional, losing games badly, and we hear the term, well, they're building something, they're going to be better late in the year, they're going to be better next year. We didn't believe it, but I'm kind of believing it. I'm seeing something now. On the defensive side of the ball, they're getting to be pretty good. And if they could generate a little more offense, as they go along, I mean, who knows? I mean, they might be a playoff team.
Exactly, Monkey. Jack, I'm gonna have to give you a taste of your own medicine. You're always telling us to talk about the games that matter, and you want to talk about North Carolina, the first game out of the gate.
No. He asked what games we watched. Brian,
I still would have. Yes, with that said, I still would have kept that quiet. I wouldn't have.
I could have told you about Colgate versus Dartmouth, a game like that.
Oh my goodness! I'm glad you didn't. We have to sanitize with Listerine and Colgate because it was just a terrible game, man. I mean, look, you poo-pooed over one of the best games, Indiana versus Penn State, like Monkey just said. That was a great game. That was an excellent game. And you said to not have a moral victory. Yeah, of course you're going to have a moral victory. You don't have your starting quarterback. You don't have your original head coach in there. And you still went up against the second overall team in the nation and pushed them to the brink of losing. I mean, it's an excellent game. And if it wasn't for a toe tap in the end zone, Indiana might be upset.
It was a really Indiana. It was a trap game for them.
Of course. But it was a great game. I watched, all the way through. It was just an excellent game, man. It was just, and it showed the resolve, obviously, of a team that's built for potential championship in Indiana. I mean, they I like Mendoza, and he's probably, if Keith was here, I would ask him, do you think it's the number one overall pick in the NFL in 2026 in the draft? And I think it possibly might be. He's showing that I've seen a lot of Heisman hopefuls and everything like that, but Fernando Mendoza looks like he might be the one that could push himself in the driver's seat.
There's a difference between this crop of college quarterbacks and reality. You could look at Mendoza and perhaps say he's the best, of all of them. But is he good enough to be an impact NFL starter? I mean, that's how you have to look at it. You can't compare him to the other college quarterbacks. But, James, I can understand why you were going off a little at me and why you were upset. And I don't take it personal because I understand your LSU Tigers lost yet another one to Alabama, 20-9. So you're a little dismayed with how their season has gone. So
what I just told you has nothing to do with LSU. I already know where we were. We lost 3 in a row with Brian Kelly. He got fired, and we lost 4 now. And I was expecting this. We had a bye. Even through the bye, I knew we weren't going to win this game. And I see we have a really good defense. We held them to 20. Played great in the secondary, but the offense is just buttered enough to where they took the quarterback out, Garrett Nussmeier, and put the transfer from Mississippi State into the Van Buren. And so it's what it is. But what I told you has nothing to do with what LSU did or did not do. It has everything to do with you, sir.
Jack is going to drag that in there. You know he's going to try to drag it in there.
The team I'm a fan of. I'm not a fan of any particular college team to the point I am like the Yankees in baseball and the Jets in the NFL. But if I had to pick one college team I'm a fan of, it's Rutgers. And they did win yesterday. They beat Maryland for what it's worth. but that slips under the radar, deservedly so.
You think? Yeah. Well, I watched. Let me tell you something. And people can say about Navy that they had scored 10 points, and because Horvath wasn't in there, I'm sorry, it doesn't make a difference what quarterback was in there. Notre Dame was rocking. Now they had a difficult first half. They started off really slow. Navy did that Woodson guy. He's a pretty good quarterback, but he reminds me kind of like a Lamar Jackson type of guy. He runs a lot early in Lamar's career when he ran a lot and didn't pass as much. That's kind of what Woodson reminds me of. But he fits in well with what Navy does as an offense. But Notre Dame looked really good. They really did. And
they needed a game like this. Something about Notre Dame. I don't want to say they seem a little soft this year. They lost a couple of games, but basically they've been getting the job done, and they look like they're headed towards a playoff berth. I don't know what to make out of them. I really don't. The matchups in the playoffs, is it set up that if they both win, if the season continues the way it is, that Ohio State plays Indiana in the championship game? Because that would be a classic championship game. And was yesterday a red flag to tell us that maybe Indiana isn't quite as good as we thought they were, considering that Penn State pushed them to the brink, and Ohio State continues to dominate? Ironically, the one game that Ohio State came somewhat close to losing was the first game of the year against Texas. I mean, since then, they've seemed pretty dominant.
No. I'm not going to say that, because I just think this is why you play games to win. And they got pushed. Obviously, it went back and forth, and Penn State took the lead at the end. And they came back and scored a touchdown with a few seconds left. And that just shows resolve to me. And that shows the making of a championship team. When you're in a situation that you're not used to being in, can you come out of that? And they just showed that. And Penn State, regardless of their firing of James Franklin, and losing the starting quarterback for the season, they still were up there. Regardless of the record, Penn State is still a viable team, and that could potentially upset any team like Indiana. And they just showed that they were able to overcome that. So I doubt it.
Everyone's talking about Indiana's late touchdown, the great catch, within the last minute. Credit the Indiana defense, because Penn State just needed about another 8-9 yards to have a chance to, kick a long field goal to tie the game at the end. And their defense came up big at the end.
Absolutely.
But there was one catch that the receiver from Penn State, the ball seemed to have gotten delivered there towards the end with about 20 seconds. That wasn't caught. So it was an intriguing game, a great finish for sure.
Yeah. And that's the whole point right there. Indiana showed resolve, and they came back. They were down. Down 3 points at one point in the game, and they came back and showed resolve and scored a touchdown to put it away. Great catch in the end zone, by the way. That was a great catch, great pass too. As far as Mendoza is concerned, somebody told me on a text that he was going to go first in the first round in the NFL. I said, y'all got to hold your horses on stuff.
Yeah.
These quarterbacks are okay. I ain't seen anybody step out and do anything spectacular yet. Ty Simpson is okay. But again, I think really what has spoiled these draft picks that are coming into the NFL is the fact of NIL. And I'm not saying players shouldn't get paid, but it's also the workmanship of these players. A lot of them, they got some talent, they get paid, and that's what they do. That's how they go about their business. They're not. It's not like the college players of old where they're really trying to earn their medal to get into the professional phase of their life. And so then you have like product that is kind of meh, you know what I'm saying? And somebody suggested that they should have just like a free agency from the NFL from college instead of a draft. It's kind of like a free agent. So whoever wants to grab whoever, that was a suggestion. I'm not saying I said it. I'm just saying it was a suggestion I heard.
I was looking at the rosters of the NFL teams with the quarterbacks, and there have been 5 quarterbacks who've had second acts, who I mean lost their starting jobs, and now they're the franchise quarterback of another team. And the number could go up to perhaps 7. So they're like second acts involved. I mean, you look at guys like Baker Mayfield. He lost the starting job at Carolina. Same thing with Sam Darnold. He lost it with the Jets, Carolina. Geno Smith. We have a couple of more. Daniel Jones. He's the franchise quarterback now. So, there are second acts there. But like we said a moment ago, don't draft someone just because they're the best available college player right now. You have to look how it translates into how they're going to perform in the NFL. But these GMs, they don't get it. A lot of them don't. So many mistakes are made. The biggest one is drafting according to need. So they bypass a much better player for position and draft according to need. The only time you draft according to need is if you're absolutely stacked in that position. Let's say somehow the number 1 pick falls into the Buffalo Bills' lap and you have a great college quarterback. Well, you don't draft them. You got Josh Allen, for example. That would be the only exception.
I would have to give you, and I'm going to even say our counterpart who's not here right now, I know you tried to come in, Keith, a big dose of humble pie, because you guys said the same thing in the draft last year when Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams, or not last year, was it last year? Yes, last year, because it's the second year. And Drake May probably should be drafted. He believes that you should never draft a quarterback number 1 or in the first round overall, but yet he's loving the success.
Well, that was Mac who thought you could wait until the 6th round to get your franchise quarterback.
Well, in the 6th, but also Keith.
It's ludicrous, by the way.
But Keith, that is ludicrous. Yeah, Keith doesn't believe you because he said he goes by the numbers. He doesn't believe that you should draft a quarterback in the first round. But yet, if he wouldn't have Drake May, if somebody else took him,
I don't think he believed that. I don't think so.
You got to ask him. Yes, he does.
Okay.
Yes, I know he's not here to defend himself, but I'm just telling the facts.
I don't think he felt that way. I really don't.
I'm just telling you. I have a good memory. I know that he said
with him on the show. Okay.
Yes, this is what he says. He says that the numbers show that, which is true. It's true. I mean, I'm not going to disagree with numbers. If it shows facts, that's what it is. But at the same time, you have anomalies. I mean, I think that year with all those quarterbacks was an anomaly. It's very good quarterbacks, and I think they're going to still have success, even though some of them might be having sophomore years. But again, Drake May is having a great year right now. He's having a really, really good year. And so you really can't say, I mean, I guess you guys, I get it. Next year's crop of quarterbacks that are going to be drafted next year, it's probably not as good as that crop. Probably should be late first round, early second round, third round, some of those guys. But I think Mendoza, I'm giving Mendoza a little bit of a pass here. I've watched him play. I think he's a little bit better than most of the quarterbacks there, and I think he's probably going to be deserving of first round. And then, with that said, GMs are going to take the quarterbacks who they need anyway.
First round, yes. Between both our teams, my Jets, your Saints, there's a good chance one of them is going to go number 1 in the draft, a reasonable chance, and they both, in reality, need a quarterback. Is it worth the first overall pick to pick Mendoza? First round, the Jets have another pick that's probably going to be in the 20s. Yeah, you take a fly on them then. You take a chance. But the first overall pick in the draft, if you can get a true impact play in another position, and take a quarterback, which, is just the best of the college quarterbacks, but doesn't have the biggest impact, I question that.
I guess it would be a fair question to ask you. Who's other than a quarterback? What other guy would you take overall, and that excites you about this year? Yes, exactly. I haven't seen anybody that look like they're just like dominant in any other position in college football. So
besides the Ohio State wide receiver. What's his name?
And who can't come out next year.
Yeah,
He's got one more year. He would be the only player I would say I would take number one overall. You're right, B.
Wide receiver 2 years ago, Marvin Harrison, Ohio State wide receiver. He went number 4 overall, but some people projected him to go number 1.
I told you.
Okay. Early huge gamble. I mean.
But he's fair what he's saying. He goes off the numbers.
Wait. He might be talking about this year's crop of quarterbacks, not in.
He means overall. Keith has always said I listened to a guy. He meant anytime because he said the numbers don't match, and I'm with him on that. If the numbers are there, I have to agree with that. But like I said, there's always an anomaly. Yes, there's always an anomaly.
Well, look at the quarterbacks who've been picked number 1 overall, and it backs up what you say to an extent. Baker Mayfield, but he was okay with Cleveland, nothing special 4 years, but they moved on. Jameis Winston, he wasn't worth the first overall pick. Trevor Lawrence, the jury is still out.
But Cam Newton was. Cam Newton was.
Jared Goff, I guess he took the Rams to a Super Bowl. He's certainly worth it with the Lions. He's been a viable number 1 pick. John Elway, legendary. Peyton Manning, legendary. But who are the guys who didn't quite cut it at number 1?
So far, right now, Sonny's going to hate me, but I'm going to have to say Bryce Young.
Right, but the jury's still out on Bryce Young.
It's not quite hung yet.
Right. So far, he hasn't quite lived up to billing number 1 overall pick. But listen, if they didn't pick him and they picked C.J. Stroud, who went second, chances are we'd be saying, yeah, that's a good pick. And you mentioned Cam Newton. To me, he was certainly worth it.
I think the thing about the draft is GMs draft based on college, how well they do in college, not necessarily if they fit their team. See, this is another thing that's a problem with GMs. A lot of GMs don't talk with their coaches at extreme like most, like other GMs do on some teams. You want to talk to your coach and say, well, if you're running this offense, who would be a good person in a draft to pick out if we can get him? That's what you have to look at. A lot of these guys just pick out, I got the number 1 pick. I'm going to pick the best person in a draft, which usually sometimes never turns out to be that guy. And then you call him a bust because he got picked in the first round, but he played for a team that the offense doesn't work for him or the defense doesn't work for him. And then he's all of a sudden a bust, but then he goes to another team, a.k.a. Daniel Jones, and he goes to another team and flourishes, or Sam Darnold. The draft is such a big hoax to me sometimes when I look at when all these teams are vying for position. It's like, are you getting the guy to fit your system? Are you just getting the guy because he's a name and he's up there? You're not trying to build a team. You're trying to clown the team. That's what you're trying to do. But that's just
but you build a system around the player's talent, like with the Ravens. They're not making Lamar Jackson adjust to their system. Okay, even though they did it earlier. I shouldn't say that. They did it at one point earlier, and then they came around and they adjusted to Lamar Jackson. And that's why there was a report the Ravens wanted Shedeur Sanders as a backup because he could adjust to that system. But the draft, I never liked the way it's held. I would put such little emphasis on the combines. You have enough game film to study a guy in college where you shouldn't be making a decision in the combines unless it's a lower draft pick. Once you get to the 5th, 6th, 7th round, I could understand you could take a little bit of a gamble then.
The draft totally is a gamble. It's only a very few sure things that you see. And usually they come in the face of someone who's a non-quarterback. Someone might be an offensive lineman, might be a defensive lineman, could be a cornerback, linebacker, somebody that that's going to give you everything that you need.
It's in comment. I see the comments, Richard, that Keith made. Keith has to talk as far as backing this or that up. So if that's true, Keith would have bypassed on guys like John Elway and Peyton Manning. Those guys didn't go number one. He could get a quarterback late in the draft. Okay.
He's just saying those are the anomalies. That's what he's saying. Those guys
Well, you don't know the anomalies till late on, for sure. Okay? I mean, come on.
But the numbers is what he's saying. The numbers don't show. They show that there's no evidence to suggest that you should draft a quarterback in the first round. More or less, you probably should draft him later. But teams aren't going to do that.
Let me ask you this: if the Saints were going number one, you're talking so highly of Mendoza, it could be different. You drafted a quarterback, Tyler Shuck, number 40 overall last year. You had Spencer Rattler, who I guess, I don't want to say they've given up on, but they've half given up on him. Let's face it, as far as being a future starter, he's not going to be the answer. Once you bench a guy who's been given a full opportunity, you don't plan to go back to him in reality. So do you draft Mendoza with the first overall pick?
Well, it depends. I mean, Tyler Shuck, this is his second start. You really have to see what he does. And that's part of the reason why Spencer Rattler is on the bench, because you got to see what you got in the 40th overall. And if he can play, and it's gonna be a tough sledding, because he has maybe one starting from the beginning of the season, one starting offensive lineman. The rest are either hurt or traded away, and so it's gonna be hard for him. And so if let's just say he goes 1-7, just like Spencer Rattler, not a good situation for him. And I think I probably would take a pick on a quarterback in Mendoza.
Spencer Rattler is on the bench because he hasn't been playing well, not because they want to see what Tyler Shuck has.
It's a combination of both. He didn't play well the last two games. He played very well. But only one victory came from it. And then you can't only blame that on Spencer Rattler, but his numbers suggest that he wasn't part of the problem. He just wasn't part of the solution. He was there to keep them steady, but he didn't do anything off of his back. I mean, it wasn't like a Drew Brees situation where you just elevated a whole team and just lifted them and got victories that you probably shouldn't have won. So that wasn't the situation with Spencer Rattler. With Tyler Shuck, I'll be honest with you, there's a reason that he didn't get the initial start. I think he's going to be okay, but he's not going to be the guy to suggest that you putting this team on your back and we're going to go ahead and get some victories that you probably shouldn't win either. And so I would say they do try another quarterback, and you just chuck up a second round and maybe you're backup, and you probably trade Spencer Rattler away when you get the opportunity.
I mean, you also got to look at the drafts. The drafts are kind of like the football has developed or evolutionized over the course of the years. Draft back when John Elway got drafted is a different draft than it is now. Players weren't getting paid then, and it was a much tougher league. So you have that aspect. It's just two different types of drafts, just like there was two different types of brands of football being played in the NFL. So, I mean, that's another thing too. But anyway, let's get away from college. Like I said, those I gave you the scores of the top 12 there. I think, basically everybody did a good job except for BYU. I think BYU is over with now. So let's go on to the NFL for today's games. We have a NFL International Series in Berlin, Germany, between the Atlanta Falcons and the Indianapolis Colts. Colts are favored by 6.5, but let me tell you something. This is going to be an interesting game for both teams. Colts are coming off a really bad loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're not coming home. They're going to Berlin. And Atlanta played New England pretty tough, but they still lost. They still got the L at the end of the day. Atlanta still statistically is in the top of the defensive rankings. And can Indianapolis bounce back in this game?
they're playing the Atlanta Falcons. What do you mean, can they bounce back? They're not playing the Eagles or whatever, but they're playing the Atlanta Falcons.
They were playing the Pittsburgh Steelers,
bounce
too.
back
Pittsburgh
against
Steelers ain't a
what?
good team.
The Falcon defense has been good this year. Jonathan Taylor didn't have one of his better games last week. He's had a phenomenal season otherwise. Yeah, well, Jonathan Taylor's going to bounce back, even though the Falcons have a really good defense. And Raheem Morris has already said that they're going to be king on Jonathan Taylor. If they do, it's going to leave other, players open there, But, and there's a certain energy the Colts have with this Sauce Gardner trade. It signifies they're all in. They're going for the Super Bowl. It sends a message to the team. So I like that kind of energy level there. And yeah, I mean, the Colts should beat the Falcons. The Falcons aren't pushovers. They're erratic. You never know which Falcon team's going to show up. But the good teams find a way to win and get in the playoffs. And the Falcons lose by 1 point to the Patriots last week and missed the extra point. That's the difference between the good teams that get to the playoffs and the teams with a lot of potential who always seem a little bit dysfunctional. I like the Colts, good bounce back game, something like 30-16.
Just a fact in this game, too, DeForest Buckner is out for the Indianapolis Colts, so it's really going to fall a lot heavier on Sauce's shoulders because that defensive push isn't going to be as great without DeForest Buckner in there. So we'll see what happens with that as well. Atlanta is on their third kicker in the season. That's bad. You should have just kept Young Ho. Just should have kept him.
We were talking to guys about the draft before. That's one area where teams very rarely put emphasis on in the draft. They think, we could get a good kicker very late in the draft. If you have a truly elite kicker, why not draft them early? I don't get it. They're difference makers, the kickers.
Yeah, so, I would agree with that with you, but no, this is a different Danny. This is different Daniel Jones. He's not the New York Daniel Jones, This is a different guy.
I don't know. I mean, I think most of his success is predicated on that run game. And so you really got to make sure Jonathan Taylor is up and running. And I think he will. I think if they bounce back, I have to agree with Jack. I think that that loss wasn't an anomaly. You got to take that seriously. The Steelers beat the crap out of them, but a lot of it was with turnovers. They shut that run game down. And they depended on Daniel Jones to take over the game. And that just wasn't his thing. It wasn't his thing. I think everything's going to be predicated on them running so they can have play action. And with that said, I think they do bounce back against the Falcons. Because one of the biggest things is going to be the introduction, like Jack said, also alluded to, is that they're probably hyped. They're hyped to have Sauce Gardner. That's saying that they're buying in. They're all in. They want to try to push this to the brink of winning a championship if they can. And so,
one game, Kevin. Come on, man. One game.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, let's look. You can't say that because your team, specifically last year, your quarterback threw 5 interceptions, but that was just one game. He dominated last year, and so I look for Danny Dimes to bounce back, but it has to be predicated on the good running game. If they don't do that, then that I'm skeptical about that offensive line if they can't get the come off blocks and run and block for Jonathan Taylor. Like you guys mentioned in the beginning of the season, maybe it's starting to come into fruition, but that's what I'm interested in seeing. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to pick the Colts in a closer game. And I think Jonathan Taylor bounced back with 100 yards rushing.
The game's in Europe, by the way, so it's not a home game for either team.
Right.
Yeah, no, I mentioned that. It's in Berlin, Germany.
Yeah. It's actually going to be in the same stadium where they had the 1936 Olympics, where Jesse Owens came to fame.
Yep. Just one extra caveat to the quarterback situation. Yeah, Daniel Jones is one of those guys that's like Jared Goff, Stafford. They need run games to really get the passing game going on and keep the passing game going. Usually quarterbacks that have that element to their game, the running game, like Lamar Jackson, don't need a running game, really. We obviously seen that with Baltimore without Derrick Henry. And that's a whole separate situation. But with Daniel, just most of the quarterbacks in the league need a running game to keep going. This is why I don't understand why the running game isn't valued as much as it should be. But anyway, Baltimore. Speaking of Baltimore, those Ravens are going to play the Vikings in Minnesota. The line is 4.5 for Baltimore. And I think this is going to be one of those games that Ravens might have a coming out party. What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, I think the Ravens are going to go on a big run. I really do. They've won their last 2 games. They were left for dead when they were 1-5. Now they're 3-5. They're very lucky. They're in a weak division. The only team ahead of them is the Steelers, and Steelers only ahead by a couple of games. They're catchable. But they've got to beat this Viking team who's still technically in the mix, but a little behind the Lions and the Packers. And, we keep hearing about J.J. McCarthy with the Vikings. He's played 12 quarters, and he's had only 2 good quarters out of 12, 2 great quarters. And we're thinking he's the answer. Listen, kudos to him. The Vikings shocked me in beating the Lions. I got to admit that. That shocked me. Was it a trap game for the Lions? What went wrong, or maybe what went right with the Vikings? But I just like Baltimore. I think they have a reprieve being in a weak division, and I think they're going on a run. They might lose a couple more games before the year's over, but that'll be okay. 10-7 could still win that division, and then they're going to be a very dangerous team in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think their backs against the wall, and barring any setbacks like another hamstring for Lamar Jackson, I just think that he and Derrick Henry are just going to go nuts. And I like the defense of Minnesota. I think it's really good, and they're going to Minnesota. But I like when your back's against the wall, and you have a really good team, and you lost a couple of close games that you probably shouldn't have lost. I just think that they're going to come in and buy, like they're bought in as well, and they're going to go in and try to win this game, and I think they will. But it'll be close. It's not going to be a blowout.
Yeah, I'm not quite on that Minnesota bandwagon yet, because the fact that they came in there with purpose when they played the Lions. They did. They came in there with their ears pinned back. Give them credit for that. They did. The Lions did not play a very good game in all 3 assets of the game. It's like they left their game in the bye week. So it's not a trap game. Lions don't have trap games anymore. They used to, but they don't now with Dan Campbell. It's just that they just played entirely just bad. And they still almost won the game. And you just got to remember, of all the accolades, J.J. McCarthy, he only threw for 143 yards and got sacked 5 times and had an interception. So, and that's what the Lions playing bad. So imagine if your Ravens coming in there and you got your game on, like they've been having in the last couple of games, they've been doing really well. I think that somebody needs to feel sorry for the Vikings in this game, because the Ravens I think they're gonna win this game. The New England Patriots, Keith's team, is going to Tampa Bay to face the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are 2.5-point favorites. This is in your division there, James. Do you believe in the Buccaneers can beat the Patriots right now with their injuries?
I do. And the only reason, I got one answer for that, and that's Baker Mayfield. He's having a MVP-like season. He's showing that with the injuries, this is what I was talking about earlier. Quarterbacks that find ways to win and elevates team and put them on their back. That's what Baker Mayfield is doing. And I saw it with the Saints. Don't mind you, the Saints are not good, but they played them, a division game. It was 23-3, and Baker was the guy. He's the guy. I mean, you're not having Mike Evans. You don't have Chris Godwin. If you got a rookie in Emeka Ibuka, I think he's playing like lights out. He's possibly going to be rookie of the year, if he keeps doing what he's doing. And they're without Bucky Irving unless he's playing this game. I'm not sure. He's out? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you got Rashad White. So, you can figure things out. And I got to give credit to Todd Bowles. I didn't think he was a good head coach at one point, and I totally off. I was wrong about that because they are doing well, and I think that the Patriots, as good as they are, and as good as Mike Vrabel is, they're going to have a hard time going down there and playing against this team and stopping Baker. I think he just find a way to win. Because again, I'm not taking anything away from the Patriots. They are a real deal team right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think that Baker will find a way to win.
Yeah, the Buccaneers should win the game, but I'm concerned with the injuries on the offensive side of the ball. From what I understand, even Baker Mayfield's hurting a bit, but he plays through it. And we just mentioned how their running game is affected. And Chris Godwin, I'm not sure whether he's going to be playing or not.
He's out too.
Yeah, he's out too. But defensively, they seem to be pretty healthy for the most part. And the New England offensive line has had a very hard time protecting Drake May, and the Buccaneer defense is more ferocious than most. And I just don't see Drake May under the type of pressure he's going to be under, being able to make a lot of big plays. So I think going to Tampa, I think the Buccaneers win by a couple of touchdowns. The Patriots have won 6 in a row. They clearly overachieved. They're not as good as made out to be. And Buccaneers win this game.
I don't know about that. They do look. I mean, they overachieve, but they've
overachieved. That's what I mean. They have. You're not going to tell me they're as good as their record is, unless you tell me any team is what their record is.
Okay, so you're telling me that Bills win wasn't like a nice stable win? Okay,
that was a big win, but they're not going to beat the Bills when they play them in New England. That would stamp them as a legitimate Super Bowl contender if they could win at home against the Bills in the rematch, but they're not going to beat the Bills in the rematch at home.
So you don't see the Patriots going to the playoffs?
Oh, I could see them going to the playoffs because they have a cushion. When you look at their record now and you look at the other teams, yeah, but the Patriots of this year, if they go to the playoffs, they lose the first game and lose it decisively, but it's still a great year because they
of course. Yeah, but that to me that's a little bit more than overachieving. I think that some people had the expectations of them winning once Vrabel came in, and you have a quarterback in his second year, and you drafted well, and you got good free agency with Stephon Diggs. So you got to expect something a little sooner than later.
What they're doing this year, I expected them to do next year. I thought this year would be basically a rebuild. They weren't going to be that. I thought they'd be more like a 6-11 team as opposed to what they have. So I
guess you and I are on different pages. I really thought they were going to be a little more successful than that.
Mm-hmm. Right, but I didn't think but I thought next year they would be a playoff caliber team. They'd be basically what they were this year. And 2 years down the line, Super Bowl contenders. So they're a year ahead of schedule. But sometimes there's a danger with any team, not just the Patriots. And we see it with the Commanders. You overachieve your first year, do much better than people thought you would do. Then they expect more the next year. Like with the Commanders, had they not gone to the NFC Championship game last year, and all the Commanders, if they were 8-9 last year, fans would have been content. So that's what makes this year so bad for a team like the Commanders. And I wonder would the Patriots have the same fate, but I don't think so because I think Vrabel is too good of a coach to let it happen.
So I'm looking at your shirt, and I see obviously it just reminded me you're a Jets fan. What division are the Jets in?
Or the East.
And the Patriots too?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And I thought the Jets would be something like a 7-10 team this year. They're much worse than that. But when you predict your team's going to go 7-10, you don't have great illusions, okay, at all. I mean, I wasn't thinking that the Jets are going to be a playoff team, even have a winning record this year. And what I thought was going to happen with the Jets, they'd be about 7-10 this year. Aaron Glenn would actually get them to the playoffs next year, where they'd probably go 9-8, 10-7, get blown out in their first game, And then in the third year on the Aaron Glenn, they revert back to a losing record. I didn't see the Jets being anywhere near sniffing a Super Bowl with this Aaron Glenn era. And I still don't, obviously.
Yeah, you would see that now because you just don't have the hope.
Well, now with the draft pick,
you need to have the faith.
If they draft really, really well, that completely is going to change.
This is true. They need to do that.
They have a bunch of draft picks. Let's see how the draft pans out. If they do something stupid again, like bypassing on a Brock Bowers, then it's a hopeless situation.
I think my opinion on the Patriots, though, is more of the fact that I think they have overachieved in the fact that they're in first place in that division. I thought Buffalo was going to maintain that first place all the way through from start to finish.
Yeah.
But I didn't think that they overachieved in being able to get a playoff spot. I thought they were going to finish second in that division, but it was going to be a good second, enough to get them in the playoffs. I think, like James said, getting those draft picks right, getting the free agents all tied in at the right time for them. And Drake May is like playing at the top of it. He's probably one of the few quarterbacks that's playing really well this year, straight through. So,
he is, but he's had his moment. He's been kind of a little erratic as well, Drake May. I mean, he's obviously the franchise quarterback of the Patriots, and he should be. And if you look at, like I mentioned to Keith, the two quarterbacks drafted ahead of him, Williams and Daniels, if you had a do-over in the draft and you could have one of them instead of Drake May, would you do it? Last season, you would have said, yeah, give me Jaden Daniels. He was so great last year. But now that things have leveled out a bit, I think the Patriots wouldn't trade Drake May for either the two if they could.
Yeah, I was kind of with you on this one too, Monkey. I thought they were going to split. But I didn't see
the
Patriots being Buffalo.
On the show and put him on there on the screen because every time I make the comment, a response, so we could share. I could share the ball with him because he has good insights.
Yeah. All right. So I also have Tampa Bay winning that game. If it was in New England, I'd probably have New England winning that game. That's how close I think this game is going to be. Jacksonville is going to the Houston Texans. Houston's got the best defense in the league. Okay, their offense ain't too great, but their defense is pretty good. Who you got there, Jack?
I don't know. Bring up one of the comments and they can make the pick for me because that's a real toss-up game. You could flip the coin. I mean, Jacksonville has Jacoby Myers. They got a receiver to help, Trevor Lawrence, which is big. Don't get me wrong. That's big. Other teams could have used Jacoby Myers. So, but I'm going to go with the Texans. I always have faith in D'Amico Ryans. I have faith in that defense. But CJ Stroud is out. So Davis Mills, whatever, he's he has a 5-19 record in past starts. He's played well at times. That doesn't say much for 5-19 record, does it? But Jacksonville's dysfunctional. We know that. There's something about them. They're dysfunctional. They're a team that you think is never going to reach their potential ever. I mean, that's the feeling you get with them. So I'm going to go with the the Texans in a squeaker. A fairly low scoring game, like 17-16.
Okay.
They're playing in Houston for what it's worth, but I don't know how much it'll help, but I'll go with them.
So he's got the Pats and the Texans, so okay.
Yeah. I like the Texans, but I don't like Davis Mills. And I agree with you, Jack, that the Jacksonville Jaguars are dysfunctional. And I think most of it is predicated on the inconsistent play of Trevor Lawrence, their number one overall draft pick. And, one of those things we were just talking about. He wasn't he number one overall? Yeah. So with that said, I still like the Jags. I like Liam Cohen. And I like it. The reason why I picked them is there's two reasons: Davis Mills and Jacoby Myers. So Jacoby Myers is excited to be outside of Las Vegas. I think he's gonna. I'm gonna make a bold statement and say that he gets 100 yards plus and 2 touchdowns, and that's going to help propel the Jacksonville Jaguars in Houston, Texas for a victory. I just think that they as good as that defense is within the Texans, I think there's still opportunity for Jacksonville to still surpass them. They're great, but they're not impenetrable. I think they can beat them.
Trevor Lawrence is an enigma. If you're Jacksonville, the first overall pick in the draft, he's been there a few seasons. He's too good to move on from, but what do you do with him? He's clearly not getting it done the way, you thought he would. And how much time do you give a guy? But if you're Jacksonville, in reality, what's your alternative? You're not going to trade him and get a guy like Tua or Kyler Murray. You're not really upgrading. I mean, at least Trevor Lawrence is somewhat solid, somewhat. But, but he hasn't shown that upside you thought he was going to show. And and all that talk about him being a generational, quarterback. He just won a very good quarterback at this point going forward. And what does he really give? I like to compare. He's like the student in school who's constantly getting B's, B, 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 B. You look at his transcript. Yeah, he's okay, but I don't know. At some point, you wonder, is Jacksonville going to make a bold move? But what bold move can you make to get someone to play quarterback beside him?
He's potentially that student that's constantly getting B's because he's almost on his way to being a bust. B for bust. I mean, when I say bust, meaning you were drafted number 1 overall. What have we received in return from that investment?
One playoff game.
But he's better. He's better. But listen, James, he's better than Jameis Winston, who was the number 1 overall pick. He's better. Jameis Winston was a radish. Okay. But Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he's solid then. And sometimes when he shows up, he's really, really good. So I just don't know what to make out of him. But at some point, if you're Jacksonville and you're really in position to get another quarterback, maybe you make a move. Listen, maybe Arizona, for example, would be thrilled and they'll give you a number 1 pick and Kyler Murray in exchange. I think Kyler Murray might be let go. He might be a free agent. But would you be better off with Kyler Murray at Jacksonville than you would with Trevor Lawrence? You might be. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Might help the running game a little bit, but
yeah, you're not sure either. But none of us are willing.
They need a solid quarterback. I just don't think that Trevor Lawrence is a solid quarterback. I think he's a 50% quarterback.
But
like Jack said he's an enigma. That's the thing. I agree with that.
If I'm the Jets, for example, and I can get him to be my quarterback, I would want him to be my quarterback over Justin Fields. But I'm not sure, after 1 year, I might feel, this isn't quite working out.
Yeah, I just don't buy Jacksonville as a team right now. I mean, they've had some pretty impressive wins. The wins that they had a couple of good wins. The one against San Francisco stands out. Yeah. San Francisco, that was a good win. They beat Kansas City.
Yeah.
I mean, those are enigmas of games of the games that they played. Yeah. It's just that neither of those teams are really defensive minded. Where Houston is going to put that defense on, because the defense is going to have to win the have to win the games now, because obviously their offense is not producing. And they damn near beat Denver. If it wasn't for Bo Nix acting like he was John Elway back there for a couple of drives, and I just don't think that Jacksonville can put up with that defense. I just don't. I mean, that 100 yards, man, James, that's asking a lot. because they do have good corners, and those defensive ends are bringing pressure, and they played outstanding defense. I can't say they haven't played good. Yeah, you could score on them, but look at the scores that they've had. Broncos only won by 3 points, and that was under 20.
That's why I made it a bold statement, brother.
No, I got you. Yeah, and yes, you're right. He has been there for 3 years, for 5
Yeah,
years.
I mean, to sum it up on Trevor Lawrence, if I'm Jacksonville, I'll continue to ride him, okay? Because he's not bad. I mean, he doesn't hurt the team. He isn't a liability in any way, but I continue to ride him. I mean, what alternative do I have if I'm Jacksonville in reality? So I make the best out of it. And he might yet there's room for improvement there. He might yet turn out to be a really good quarterback. That's the thing.
He's been there for 5 years. If he hasn't gotten it right so far.
I said that about Daniel Jones, was there for 5 years. Trevor Lawrence.
But Daniel Jones went
but
to a different
he
team.
left, right? It might take Trevor Lawrence going to another team, right? So I don't know. We can argue this till the cows come home.
All right, Monkey. All right, so now we have the Cleveland Browns going to Jack's New York Jets. Cleveland Browns are favored by 2.5. Probably for a really good reason. Jack, since this is your team, what do you see in this game?
Yeah, this reminds me of a game I went to. I think it was a couple of years after the Jets won the Super Bowl back in the day. I bought standing room tickets to the Jet games at that time. They cost $5 a pop. And I would sit on the steps in the upper deck in the aisle watching the game. I mean, I can't believe when you're young some of the things you do. And I remember Joe Namath was out. And the Jets had their backup Al Woodle playing. And at the half, the Jets were losing 3-0. And I remember one fan mumbling, "Oh, what an exciting game," saying it sarcastically. It was like as boring as could be. And this game kind of reminds me of that Cleveland and the Jets. Man, oh man, what's at stake? You kind of wonder as a Jet fan. You're rooting for your team to win, don't get me wrong. But if they lose, okay, it's not so bad because you're thinking of the draft the same way. And considering the buzz that Mendoza, caused yesterday with Indiana, coming back and beating Penn State, it's in the back of our minds. It's on the back of our minds, the number one pick. And I'm sure, James, you're a Saints fan. You want your team to win. But you're thinking, it won't be so bad they lose. Maybe they'll get positioned, in the draft a little more. With that said, low-scoring game. The defenses should have their way. I look for Myles Garrett to have a big, big game. I know the Jets are coming off a win, but then they had a bye. They didn't need to bye coming off the win because they were on a high. And so not only does the bye take away the high, but then they trade arguably their two best players, Sauce Gardner and Quentin Williams. So I don't want to hear that the team's going to continue to be on a high. I'm going to go with Cleveland to win a fairly low-scoring game. Well, maybe not so, something like 20-16. I kind of wonder if the offenses are really struggling badly. The focus of the game is going to go back to Shedeur Sanders, but they're not playing in Cleveland. If they were playing in Cleveland, the fans might be calling for them. But I'll go with Cleveland, to eke out a win. I don't want them to. I'm still rooting for the Jets draft pick and all to win because let me just say, when you hope for a higher draft pick, it backfires on you. And we saw it happen. We talked about Baker Mayfield before going first in the draft, Sam Darnold third. Well, guess what? There was Josh Allen there late on. And the Bills never would have had Josh Allen had they had the first pick in the draft.
For a moment there, I thought you were going to say the Jets were going to win, and you said they were coming off a high. I was going to say, what are you on, sir? Because it's just I have no.
They lost the high.
Yes, they will come off of it for sure. But they're going to get a big dose of reality once they play this defense. And I just think, and partially because I don't even think it's going to be a defensive game. I just think that Cleveland may have a better chance at scoring because you gave your two biggest assets away on defense. I mean, mind you, you're going to benefit from that, but not this year. It'll be next year in the draft and the following year. But yeah, I just got the Browns too as well. I have to agree with Monkey. I think Myles Garrett is going to have your quarterback running for his life. And yeah, I agree with you on the victory. But I don't know if it's close. I think the Browns may get a double-digit win.
What's your feeling, guys, on Shedeur Sanders not playing? I get the feeling, and I'm not being paranoid, that they don't like Kevin Stefanski, the coach, doesn't even want him there. If he could have his way, Shedeur Sanders wouldn't be on the team. I mean, I think, and if I'm Shedeur Sanders, he's handling it well. I get the feeling this team doesn't want me to succeed. They don't want to know from me. I'm being forced on them. I'm a dinner guest that's forced on them, that's not welcome in their home. And the only way he gets in, if Dillon Gabriel either is injured, is so atrocious. And I get the feeling too, I know is Zappe eligible to play, but can you imagine Dillon Gabriel has to go out and Zappe gets in? I mean, that would be off the rails, but I wouldn't put it past Kevin Stefanski to do it. Such a lack of enthusiasm for Shedeur Sanders. And who do you have? Dillon Gabriel, who might be a competent starter in the league. He might. I don't know. He's got to play more. He's got to be given more of an opportunity. But this Shedeur Sanders thing, it's getting to be a bit ugly to me.
It started when he was drafted. You saw the faces of both the Stefanski and the GM as if you knew right there. I mean, Pictures are worth 1,000 words. Well, that picture was worth 1,000,000 because it showed that they didn't want that guy at all. And it clearly told me that the owner made that draft pick, even though he came out later and said it had nothing to do with him. Why would you even come out and say that? That makes you look even more guilty. That was your pick, and I get it. He sold not t-shirts, but he sold a lot of memorabilia and jerseys, and that's what he's still continuing to do. And to be honest with you, I have never listened to any media for Cleveland, during the regular season, but I do a lot more because of the Shedeur Sanders saga that's going on there. And so I just think that, and I'm with you. I'm tired of it as well, but you're intrigued, you're drawn in because they're making it a situation where it's obvious that at some point maybe this kid should play. Maybe you should try him, but they're not going to do that. As if anything, I'm surprised they didn't trade him away. But that would make it look obvious that Stefanski didn't want him there in the first place.
Owners are entitled to get involved. I don't go for this stuff that owners shouldn't get involved. It's the fifth round already of the draft, and Shedeur Sanders is still there. The owner did a good job getting involved at that point. He allowed them to do their thing, not draft Shedeur Sanders, and now it's to the point it's ridiculous. What do we have to lose in the fifth round? I was all for him forcing that, on the coach and the GM. And I'm going to tell you, if he goes elsewhere and succeeds, that's a fireable offense with the coach and the GM at that point.
Yeah, I think this is Stefanski's last year in Cleveland anyway. Just the fact that it's awkward in the first place that he's playing Gabriel and he's got Shedeur on there. He's listed as the backup quarterback, but if something happens to Gabriel and he does come out there and play Zappe, he's gonna get fired the next day. I'm gonna tell you that right now. He'll get fired the next day because he's already in tune to get fired. They're not on the same page. The owner wanted that. He just came out and said he wanted Shedeur Sanders to sell extra T-shirts and cups, whatever the case may be.
Well, Jimmy Haslett was right, the owner. He said he wants to see all the young quarterbacks play because they got to know what they're going to do with the draft. He wants to know for sure. So you play Shador 2-3 games, and if he's horrible, you got to draft the quarterback unless Dylan Gabriel somehow is great. If Dylan Gabriel comes out today and he plays great, ride him into next week. Ride him the rest of the year if he could keep playing well. And Sanders is on the bench. I mean, if that's the case. But owners entitled to get involved as long as they let their GM and coach do the job. The owners can't get involved. They can't come to the sideline during a game and question a coach whether he should go for it, whether he shouldn't. The owner's got to be in the box during the game. Or if he is on the sideline, just be there to encourage the players. Nothing more than that. Okay, that's understood.
Well, he can question whether what players are in there though, because he's the one that's paying for those players, not the coach. Now he paid. But that's what I'm saying.
But you can't have, before early in the show, he said, well, it depends where you draft, how the coach is going to use, and the coach this, the coach that. I'm not going to give the coach, all this so much power to that point. The GM's there for a reason. You want him to work closely with the coach and vice versa, and the owner. You want everyone to be on the same page. But even with the Giants, with John Mara, he left the decision to the GM, Joe Shine and Brian DeBal, to move on from Saquon Barkley. That's ludicrous. You got a guy who was with the Giants 7 years. You want him to be a career Giant, a great Giant, a legacy Giant player, and you allow a coach and a GM to override you because you figure, I don't want to interfere. Well, it should be in reverse. The coach and GM shouldn't interfere with you making a Giant a legacy player. You tell the coach and GM, I want you to sign him. I want him to be a legacy player. They'll discuss their position, but then you make it clear, this is where I stand, guys. This is what I expect from you. Good luck with the rest of the handling with the team. Case closed.
I agree with that because when they showed footage of him later saying that I hope he doesn't go to the Eagles, it's late. It's too late, and now you're like kicking yourself in the, because you made the poor or lack thereof of decision making and keeping your player, and he comes back to bite you, and this guy becomes the offensive player of the year and the Super Bowl winner at the next year. So it really hurt the whole organization, I think.
And just keep in mind that the owner did hire the GM and kind of had say in who the coach was going to be. So with that, you're going to listen to your GM because you're the one that hired him. If you don't listen to him, you look like you got egg on your face because you made the hire because you had confidence in that GM. But I think at the end of the season, though, I think that coach is going to get fired. Maybe the GM will get fired too. The way they've handled this whole situation, even with Deshaun Watson, it's making Cleveland a laughing stock. And they're in the same situation that the Lions were in like 5-6 years ago. And you just got to stop that stuff. You got to stop that hereditary badness somewhere and start and get your ducks in a row. And Cleveland has been doing this for the last, since they came back to Cleveland. Something's got to change. And
they made the playoffs a couple of years ago. In all fairness, they did have a good year.
True.
But again, it was an illusion because they had old Joe Flacco put together a few good games, so people were thinking they were better than they are. These quick fixes, I don't want to say that they're easy, but they do take place over a period of a few games, and people kind of get fooled, on certain things. But with Cleveland, I don't know what to make out of them. I mean, the NFL is strange. A team could turn it around in 1 year. They could be bad 1 year, good the next. And, you never know. But something seems a little dysfunctional going on at Cleveland right now. But we'll see what happens today, how the game unfolds.
Please, the dysfunction is rubbing off on us. Let's leave them alone. Please, let's move to the next game.
Well, I want to make when the comments come up, I want to emphasize the remarks made too. We got to leave time for that.
Yes.
The New Orleans Saints, James's team, is going to play the Carolina Panthers. In Carolina, Panthers are favored by 5.5. James, what do you got on that one?
Oh boy. Where do I start? Look, New Orleans traded away Rashid Shaheed, and they traded away Trevor Penning. So they're in a situation where they're saying we just got to recoup some of our draft picks that we traded away and try for next year because they're not in a situation where they're playing for anything but pride and or maybe for the first round, first overall draft pick. So I mean, you got Tyler Shuck in there. You only have one starting offensive lineman, as I mentioned earlier, from the beginning of the season. That's going to be starting in this game. It's going to be tough sledding for Tyler Shuck, I think, and for our run game. Alvin Kamara hasn't been playing great. You traded earlier in the season for Devon Bailey out of the Denver Broncos for a fourth round draft pick that we gave away. So it looks like we got that back by trading away Rashid Shaheed. And maybe that we can give Bailey a few more snaps so he can expound upon his 5 catches, 39 yards, and 1 touchdown that he has this season. So it doesn't look good, man. I mean, the Saints, they probably should live through their name. You know, New Orleans has about 36% Catholicism. They probably just say a few Hail Marys, and maybe they got a little voodoo there, throwing a little hex as well to try to get a win here. I just don't think it's going to happen because I think the biggest thing the Saints need to do is stop Rico Dowdle. Rico Dowdle, as of late, has been the engine again, just like Jonathan Taylor has been for Indianapolis. Rico Dowdle has been that for Carolina. And if we can stop him, we're giving up 4.0 yards per carry, which is 12th in the league. But we've also given up 1,100 yards rushing, about 129 a clip. That's a lot. And so I just don't think it's going to happen. I'm not afraid of Bryce Young. I don't think he's the answer right now. He's not doing well at all. But if they can run the ball, they have a great opportunity to win the game. And I got the Carolina Panthers covering there. I think it's 5.5 or something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got them covering.
Well, we don't do point spreads and all, just the winners and losers here. James, You say you always like to brag you keep receipts and you're going to bring out your receipts, but it never seems you do. When I told you in the beginning of the year the New Orleans Saints were going to go 2-15 and you thought they would be like a 9-18, you were bragging about the receipts you were going to keep. I mean, you could wait a few more weeks to bring them out at the end of the year. They're on track to go 2-15, like I said they were going to go. Okay, and then you like to point out to my Jets, who I said would go 7-10. They're going to be worse than that, even a lot worse than that, it seems. But Panthers, I thought would go like 8-9. They win this game, they'll be 6-4. But I think they'll muff some games later. But when a team goes into Lambeau Field and they win the way the Panthers did there, that makes me wonder what type of team are we looking at with the Carolina Panthers. Maybe they're better than I'm giving them credit for even. I mean, they should win today. I mean, I can't imagine them slipping up to lose to New Orleans. But the Panthers have obviously an outstanding running game, and the defense has gotten much better as the seasons went along. So are they a contender for the Super Bowl in any way, shape, or form? No, not at all. Not in the slightest. The Panthers are very soft in that regard, and no one looks at them as even being a serious contender for a wild card position. Yet if they win, they're 6-4. So they're certainly in the hope business. And if they're as good as they were when they won at Lambeau Field, maybe the Packers just took them lightly, or maybe but maybe the Panthers have something going here.
Yeah, the Panthers are doing 2 good aspects of the game. They're playing great defense and they're running the ball well. This is something that you have to do to win games, and it takes time of possession off the clock for the other team, and it keeps their offense on the field. Now, see, I agree with you, James. I think it's not coming from Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young has actually regressed from last year. He's going back to that mode. But at the same time, their running game, which I felt was going to be good at the beginning of the season. When I heard they got Dowdle, I said, yeah, they got Hubbard. Oh, that's going to be a nice little 1-2 punch they got. And their offensive line is doing a pretty good job of run blocking, and that's what offensive lines love to do. They love the run block. So when you get that and their defense is playing pretty well, I mean, hey, let's not sell them short in their defensive end. They are playing pretty well. I just think that, this might be a little bit too much for the Saints, but the Saints always play tough. Now, they've had a couple of games this year where they have not on the road. But for the most part, they've played teams close, and I think 5.5 is pretty easy for them. But, the Panthers they're going to run that ball, and they're going to play good defense, and that's why they're going to win this game. All right.
And Jack, you're right. Let me say this before you have your question. I don't have receipts, but you won't have your receipts either, sir, by the end of the year in regards to the Jets. So, yes, there's that.
Goes both ways.
Bryce Young, you said he's regressed. I don't think he's regressed this year. I mean,
what have you seen?
Yeah, what do you see that we're not seeing?
He's managed the games. I mean, he's done what he's had to do. I mean, basically, they're not playoff contenders in the real sense of the word, the Panthers, even though at 5-4, they're 6-4 after today. Technically, they are, possibly they sneak in as a wild card. I mean, depending on what they do going forward. But in other words, I feel going into next season, if the Panthers finish this year at 9-8, 10-7, I think Bryce Young absolutely is their quarterback next year.
Yeah, I just don't see. I just don't see where he's improved or kept up the same consistency as he did last year at the end of the season. And I thought that benching was really good by the coach at the time. Sit him down and make him think about it a little bit. And then when he came back with flying colors. He was doing really well. He was playing out of his mind. Now, is that something that's an anomaly that just happened to him, or is this the Bryce Young that we can expect? Maybe he's just having a bad season. I don't know. But when you come off that and you have momentum going to the next season and you start playing and you go back to where you were playing before, I just don't see it. I call that regression. So, but unfortunately, they got a great run game. So that just kind of sidesteps what he's doing. Anyway, we have the New York Football Giants going to Chicago and taking on the Bears. What do you got there, Jack?
Well, the Bears on a winning streak, and the difference between the Bear team this year and last year. Last year, they lost so many tight games that they could have won, and we kept saying, with a little luck here and there, they'd have this record. And that's what happened this year, basically. To have the Bears really improved under Ben Johnson, I'm not sure. Everyone is saying, what an improvement. But they've only turned a tiny corner, which they may have turned with any coach. We don't know, even though I think Ben Johnson's the right guy right now. Caleb Williams still making a lot of mistakes, but he has a lot of upside. Excellent running game. The Giants, I have a problem with what Brian DeBall said recently. He thinks Jackson Dart's the leader of the team. If you think a novice rookie like Jackson Dart is the leader of your team, you've got a big problem, a big, big problem. And the Giants touted defense, their great pass rush, Carter, Burns, Lawrence, Thibodeau. These guys can't stop the run. I haven't stopped the run this year. And the Giants, they also lost a couple of games that they absolutely should have won, and I'm tired of hearing about upside, this and that. But it's a game. This is a game where I'm on upset alert. I think the Giants absolutely have a great chance of winning this game. But with that said, I think the Bears are a tiny bit different from last year. Last year, they would have found a way to lose this game. This year, they find a way to win this game. And Scatterboo, getting hurt with the Giants makes a big difference in their running game. I think the Bears eke out, a very tight victory. in Chicago.
Forget Scalaboo. How about DeAndre Swift getting hurt and allowing Mafungi to not excuse me, not Mafungi. What is this guy's kid's name?
The receiver?
No, the running back.
It's not Mafungi, but that's funny though. It's
Yes.
Mungunda, something like that. It's kind of like Mafungi, but it's
Yeah. I know I made a reference to yes. Well, it is not playing like fungi at all.
Yeah.
But
No, he's
I mean, 176 yards in his last outing, and I think he's going to do a little bit similar to that, and that helps Caleb Williams. And this is what we talk about: what a great running game could do for an offense. And definitely, I think that Caleb Williams they seem to be like improving, and I think the trajectory it's going up against a really what could be a trap game, but I doubt it. I think them at home. They have an opportunity to win this game, and they win by 7 to 10 points.
But I'm going to tell you guys, you look at the division that the Bears are in, and to keep up with the Lions and Packers till the very end of the season, it reminds me of a marathon where a runner could keep up for 20 miles. You know, he's running with the lead pack, but then the last few miles he falls off the pace. That's what I think is going to be with this bad team. They'll be contending, keeping up with the Lions and Packers to a point, but by late in the season, there'll be that separation and the Bears will fall back. And maybe they eke out a wild card, but I think they come a little short of that when all is said and done. But I think their fate won't be decided until the last game of the season. You know, I think I'll be in position for wild card berth until the last week.
Well, I do also have the Bears winning this game, but Jack, there is definite improvement on Chicago, especially at the offensive end. They are third in total offense and sixth in points scored. So they didn't have that last year. None of that. They weren't even in the top 15, I don't think. Yeah, they weren't in the top 15. So that's a definite improvement with Ben Johnson at the helm. Their defense, on the other hand, that's another thing. Their defense is underachieving for the players that they have. And they do have some injuries in the secondary. That hurts them a lot, too. Jalen Johnson is a big one. He's their best corner. But they got Stevenson back, so he's playing. I just think that the Giants just don't have weapons on offense to win this game. I think Jackson Dart is phenomenal as a quarterback. He should be the leader of the team. We mean
What do you mean phenomenal? He's a rookie. Let him establish himself.
As a rookie, he's playing phenomenal.
You have these vets like on defense. Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, guys like that you look to for leadership. And Jackson Dart's first year, listen, he has a ton of potential. Don't get me wrong. I like what I see with him so far, but he's got a long way to go.
Jack, you should know better than to be saying that anyway, because if you're an old timer, just like both of us are, and we watched football in the 90s when John Elway came to Denver. We're going to start talking about John Elway. He was a leader as soon as he stepped in that room. He grabbed control. Great quarterbacks do that.
Better than Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart is not.
In the long run, yeah, if you're comparing him to his whole career to him now, yeah, I mean, that's easy to say.
John Elway was the number one overall.
Brett Favre came into Green Bay and took over a chart. Green Bay, Brett Favre came into Green Bay and took that team over. Okay. Stafford came to Detroit and took that team over. Great quarterbacks will rise to the challenge of being a leader. And if that's
he's
what
not a great quarterback yet, if he'll ever be one.
It's got nothing to do with being a great quarterback. Tom Brady is a great quarterback because he's a great leader. It's not because he has phenomenal numbers. Okay? He's a leader. That dude is a GOAT in leadership. Everywhere he's gone, he's won. Right?
What are we talking about, Tom?
We're talking about quarterbacks coming in.
Tom
Brady came in there and took
You're making comparisons.
I'm not making comparisons on playing. I'm comparing the leadership role. If quarterbacks their job is to be the leader.
Oh yeah, no, don't get me wrong, but Brian DeBall was saying he's the leader of the team. He's our leader. It's another thing to show leadership when you're on the team playing, but there's a vast difference from a guy being a team leader as opposed any quarterback's got to show leadership during the game. I mean, we know that.
Gentlemen, we all agree that the Bears are going to win this game.
We got enough time, James. Chill out. We got enough time. We're moving on to the next game. We've got 35 minutes. Relax.
How many games we got?
How many games
we got a lot of games left.
We got
one. You're right. You want to know something, James?
2 1 o'clock games, and then after that, there's 4. So
that's 4. You want to know something? You're right, James, on the amount of games. My fault. Okay.
Anyway, let's go to it. The Buffalo Bills are going to Miami. I'm gonna leave this to you, Jack, because this.
Well, some games we could go over quicker than the others. You know,
this would probably be one of the games.
And let's not overanalyze.
That's what I'm alluding to.
Buffalo's owned Miami. They've won 7 in a row. They're much better than Miami. Miami's reeling on the ropes this season, and they're going to have a lot of rebuilding to do in the off season. Are they going to stick with Tua at some point? They're going to have to resolve the situation, whether he's their quarterback of the future. Tua might be better off with a change of scenery. Maybe, I read something Tua for Kyler Murray. That might actually be a viable deal for both teams. Buffalo wins handily, something like 34-17.
I could agree with that trade, Jack. That's pretty interesting, the Kyler Murray for Tua Tagovailoa. I think Kyler Murray might be a better option in Miami than Tua in Arizona, though. But with that said, we all agree. I won't beat this up. I think the Bills they continue to beat them with players that they don't have right now, and they're going to do it even more with players that they don't have right now. I mean, they're gonna whip them up. I think the Bills maybe win by double digits score, probably a high double digit score. It's just not a good situation in Miami.
Not at all. Yeah, I got Buffalo winning too. I would definitely say they're going to probably win more than 10 points. Next game is those I mentioned Cardinals. They're going to Seattle to play the Seahawks. Seahawks are favored by 7.5 points. That's a lot, considering it's an interdivisional rivalry. So who you got, Jack?
Yeah, last week when I picked Arizona to win at Dallas, you guys laughed at me. James laughed at me last week, and Arizona won at Dallas. And I think they're going to do it again. They're going to go to Seattle. I think they're going to win there. And Jacoby Brissett will play well, and then Arizona will delude themselves into thinking Jacoby Brissett should be their starter next year, and they'll have a similar year to what they're winding up so far having this year. And I'm going to go with Arizona. They have a lot of upside. Even though you look at their record and they've lost games you think they should have won, I'm going to go with them to upset Seattle, something like 24-21.
You were right. I definitely had Dallas beating Arizona, and I guess I tried to forget about the horrible defense that they have down there in Dallas, but Arizona, Jacoby Brissett is playing a great game, but he's got to face a much different defense in a more hostile environment. You think he's really going to go up there and upset Seattle? Now I'm really going to take the egg off my face that I have for the past game and just put it on your forehead, sir, because I really think that the Hawks are going to they're going to kill, especially with the emergence. First of all, they have a really good offense. They got great receivers there, and they're adding Rashid Shaheed to that mix. I think he's going to have a great all-purpose game against this defense, and I think the Hawks win. Not only win, but they win probably by double digits as well.
Yeah, I got Seattle as well. Seattle's playing fabulous football right now. Between them and the Rams, I don't know who's going to run away with that division. But Seattle does have very good defense. The only thing that I worry about Seattle a little bit is their running game. The running game hasn't been really getting off the ground, but they made it up with JSN and that passing attack. Oh, and Arizona. I'm sorry, I'm not picking Arizona ever again. You losing the Titans, dude. Forget that.
Yeah, well, but this game, just quickly with Arizona, if they have any hopes of winning the division, I know it looks terrible now. They have to win this game. If they win this game, it means a loss for Seattle. Either the Rams and Niners are losing today because they play one another. So if Arizona wins, they still have some hope, for the postseason, as bad as things have been. But if they lose today, I mean, they're basically cooked.
Yeah, I'm not putting any faith in. I was another one that was like you, Jack, that picked Arizona to finish second in division. I thought the Rams were going to win division, but yeah, burn that receipt all up.
Not yet. Wait till after today before you do that.
You can go ahead and add your potatoes and carrots and onions right. Because they're stewed. They are cooked, like you said.
All right. So now we have another match between the NFC West there as the LA Rams are going to San Francisco to play the Niners. Niners have been kind of sluggish the last couple of games. And the Rams been high powered. Jack, who you got?
Yeah, I like the Rams. I mean, they're playing at San Francisco. I'm tired of the drama every week, even though it's not as far with Christian McCaffrey. Oh, is he playing? Is he not playing? Is he hurt? Is he not hurt? This question, that question, always surrounding the 49ers. Trent Williams, Kittles, this guy, that guy. I'm just tired of it. Oh, Mac Jones, is he going to be the starting quarterback instead of Purdy going forward? Yeah, they're becoming a little bit of a soap opera to me, the Niners, and I'm kind of tired of it. And Matthew Stafford, what a great year is he having. And Matthew Stafford's been around forever, Super Bowl winning quarterback. He should be a first ballot Hall of Famer without question. But we never put his name up there when we talk about the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Why doesn't he join the short list? Let's start putting him in the short list, the top 5. But we don't put him there. And Devontae Adams, perfect example of a receiver. You could have gotten him for like a ham sandwich. And teams are bypassing on him, and he winds up with the Rams. And look at the year he's having because he has the right quarterback, the right system, the right coach. I like the Rams. I think that's going to be a good amount of points scored, something like 30-20.
The Rams are contenders. They are definitely contenders for the Super Bowl. They got a really good defense, and you got a great offense, great Hall of Fame quarterback, like you mentioned. And you got a really good running game, passing game. Special teams is good. And you have great coaching. That's a total recipe for a contender for a Super Bowl. I think, and I agree with you about Matthew Stafford, first ballot Hall of Famer. And he's playing with a bad back, too, mind you. He's not having a great back, and he's still showing that he can get out there and grit and grind with the best of them. And he's MVP caliber right now, and I like them to be a beat up 49ers. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Beat up 49ers. Thank you. And I think that the 49ers can win games. They can ilk out some wins against like really bad teams, but having all these injuries is really going to make it tough for them to win against teams that are just Super Bowl caliber teams. And this is no different. And so I think they're going to have a hard time against the Rams. The Rams, don't get me wrong, they're going into a hostile environment, but it's just so much you can do. And I love the coaching. I like Kyle Shanahan. I think he's a great coach. I just think that you can only do so much with what you have. It's just a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong. They got Kittles. They got McCaffrey's playing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Obviously, they don't have Purdy yet. He's still on the menu.
That's my point. Every week we ask that, is McCaffrey playing? We have to ask one another.
Yes, but he's playing, though. That's the thing. And so he gives them hope. Like you've been saying about so many teams, he gives them hope. but I just don't think it's enough against a team like this. And so I think the Rams win, and I think the Rams win by another team to win by double digits. So I'm going to sound like a broken record here.
Yeah, I don't know if the Rams will win by double digits, but they'll definitely win. Especially this is a revenge game because early in the season, San Francisco beat the Rams, if you don't remember. So Rams are playing a much different level that they were playing than they were playing at the beginning of the season. And San Francisco seems to have regressed a little bit, which I thought was going to happen because I said this is too good to be true for San Francisco with all the injuries they have. There's no way they can keep putting up W's, and they got all this going on. And much to Jack with all the drama that's going on there too. So, yeah, I got the Rams winning. But I don't think it's going to be – I don't think they're going to blow them out too much. It's a division game still. San Francisco still has a pretty good defense. Salah has done a great job with that defense to keep them in games and figuring out a way.
Their stock leader is Bryce Huff. He has 4, but he's missed a couple of games. And Robert Salah, who had him when he was Jet coach, and Huff was very successful in New York, has brought him back. But what's interesting with Huff being on the Eagles had no use for him. They didn't even dress him, for the Super Bowl game because he was useless. That shows you the effect of coaching.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and
I agree, Jack.
We have the Detroit Lions facing off against the Washington Commanders in Washington. What do you got there, Jack?
Well, can any of us actually see the Lions losing this game? I mean, what do the Commanders have going for them outside of playing in Washington? It's a home game. I mean, the Lions are coming off a loss. And the Lions remember losing last year to the Commanders in the playoffs. And Jaden Daniels isn't playing for the Commanders. It's Marcus Mariota. I mean, if the Lions lose this game, Brian, you're going to have to take a step back. You can't say, well, it's only one game, an off game. You're going to have to fully reevaluate this Lion team if they actually lose this game, because it's a big game for them. They've got to win at the very least. I think they win easy by, something like 33-14. But everything is pointing towards a Lion win.
Yeah, I can't even see them losing in an alternate universe. And so I think it would just be catastrophic if you have all of your players on offense and players on defense and you go into Washington and lose a game like this. I don't think that's going to happen. Matter of fact, I know that's not going to happen. I think the Lions are just primed to go in and beat up a Jaden Daniels team and kill their hopes for any playoffs, semblance or even a winning record. So I just think the Lions bounce back. They go in and they win again. Another team I'm going to mention by double digits. I think it's going to be by double digits.
Yeah, I got the Lions winning this game too. The stars are aligning too perfectly for this game. That's the only thing that has me concerned because it's almost the flip of what happened in the divisional round last year, where the Lions were all beat up and couldn't stop a rolling marble if they tried. This time it's on the offensive side for Washington, and that's their strength. And you're playing against their strength, and you dominate that area. That'll be good because the defense from the Lions they're healthy for the majority of the team. They're pretty healthy, and they don't lose 2 in a row. And they're pissed off because they lost to Minnesota, and how they lost to Minnesota because they know dang well that they didn't play a good game in that game. So, and Dan Campbell is a guy that has these guys ready all the time. So yeah, I'm going to have to go with that as well. Without hesitation on that.
Well, the Commanders have another issue that they're, thinking to deal with. Their new stadium, and Trump reportedly wants it named after himself. And it's going to be interesting to see what the Commanders do. I mean, in that regard.
Yeah, he's also going to be at that game because it's, armed forces. Well, the veterans thing going on. So he's going to be there for the halftime festivities. And, other than that, Hopefully the Lions win this game. But that's only going to throw shade on it. But anyway, I'm not here to talk about that. Anyway, on Sunday night, those Pittsburgh Steelers, who just got done beating the Colts last week, are going to L.A. to play the Chargers, who have no Joe Alt for the rest of the year. And their right tackle is gone for the rest of the year, too. So what do you got, Jack?
Yeah, you were saying how bad Tennessee was before, but they sacked Justin Herbert a bunch of times when they played the Chargers. And I'm not sold on this Pittsburgh team. I'm just not sold on them. Last week, their defense showed up, for one game this season. I mean, was that a bit of an aberration or not? And it's a hard game to pick because, with Joe Alt and the Charger offensive line being decimated. But then again, can Pittsburgh generate a lot of points from their end? And I'm going to go with the Chargers. It's a toss-up game, something like 23-20. Aaron Rodgers is having a good year. Mike Tomlin's having an excellent coaching year, despite their defense, their strength performing as poorly as they have. Just the idea they have a winning record. But I'm going to tell you with the Steelers, they're not going to be a wild card team. Either they win their division or they don't. And they have a 2-game lead over the Ravens. And they got to be peeking at their shoulder over Baltimore, because if it gets down to one game, the Steelers could then find themselves in real trouble in that regard. And I'm going to go with the Chargers today to win. It's at home, but it doesn't matter for the Chargers being at home because the home crowd in LA is minimal as is.
Yeah. Do you not watch that game the Steelers defense had against the Colts? Probably the best offense in the league.
One game. They were outstanding for one game. Have you watched all the other games before then?
Yes, I have. But I mean, you never heard. I mean, you don't like. Oh, yeah, you're the guy that doesn't like momentum. You don't think there's any traction with that. You don't think that can ride them all the way through the next several games to help them out at all. This isn't Jack. I forgot about that.
Okay,
Yes.
because they were able to get to Daniel Jones. I mean, I'm not getting crazy about it. It's not like they were getting to Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. They played
Yes.
a good game, the Steelers.
But you're telling me they're not licking their chops. They're not licking their chops, TJ Watt particularly, against an offensive line that has already given up 29 sacks. But they got Mekhi Becton back, but they don't have Joe Alt with a high ankle sprain, and your right tackle's gone as well. And you pick up Trevor Penning from New Orleans to take up the slack. You don't see a problem with that?
Oh, there's a problem with the offensive line, but they also have a great coach in Jim Harbaugh.
You can only do so much.
It's going to make some adjustments as they go along. Steelers don't have a high-powered offense from their end. They're not they're not going to get a lot of points in this game.
I think the score is going to be low, like you say, and I agree. But I just think it's enough to where the Steelers can come in and upset the Chargers and get a win because of where they are. And I'm going to go with the Steelers here. I think that's just it's just too much on that offensive line. And we saw how when the offensive line became shaky and after they were getting all those wins in the beginning of the season, you saw the difference. And then there's no great running game right now. You're out of two good running backs, so that's also going to hurt them. And so I just think that the Steelers is just too much offensively for the deficiencies for the Chargers to overcome. And so I like the Steelers here. And this is not a double-digit game for me, but I do like them ilking out a win because of their defense.
It'll be a close. It's going to be a close game. I'd be surprised if it's more than a one-score difference.
Yeah, I agree.
If you remember, last year these two teams played too, and they played in Pittsburgh, and it was a pretty close game. I believe Pittsburgh won that game, didn't they? Wasn't it? They beat the Chargers.
Well,
they beat the Chargers. That was the game that that Herbert got hurt in, as a matter of fact. But anyway, on that note, I think I got Pittsburgh too. Chargers are running out of offensive linemen. and they don't have any running backs that can block right now. So until that shifts, they lost to the Giants because of that whole issue. They didn't have either one of the tackles, and one of their other offensive linemen, I think their guard was out in that game. So they only had 2 of their 5 starting offensive linemen, and they got beat. So, yes, Pittsburgh doesn't have a great offense, but if you play great defense, you don't need that much offense to win games. So I am giving this to Pittsburgh, and it's not going to be a high-scoring game by any means. It might be a yawner, but I see Pittsburgh winning by, at least a field goal, 1 to 2, 3 points, somewhere around there. Right. And finally, on Monday Night Football, we have the Philadelphia Super Bowl Eagles going against the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field. Going to be a good game just on that premise alone. Who you got, Jack?
The Packers are very soft 5-2-1. I mean, I know the record still is impressive. There's something soft about that. But with the Eagles, the Eagles remind me of what the Dodgers won baseball this year during the regular season. They had control of their division. They were always going to be in the playoffs. They were never threatened, but they weren't the best team. But you knew they had that championship pedigree, that they could be getting it together in the off season. And we keep hearing about what's wrong with the Eagles, but there's not much wrong with them. What are they, 6-2? I mean, come on, that's what they were expected to be about. Were people expecting the Eagles to be 8-0 at this point? Were they expecting them to be 16-1 on the season? Super Bowl winners usually lose a few games, even though I'm not a believer the Eagles are quite, headed there, because I think your habits catch up to you. If you rely too much on the run or pass game, I don't think you can just turn the switch on and off when you have to in the big spot. They're at Lambeau Field, and I think you guys told me a couple of weeks ago, it used to, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, it used to be a little more important to be at Lambeau Field for the Packers than it is now. And you lose to the Carolina Panthers at Lambeau Field. I'm so turned off by that. I'm not, it's going to take me a while to say that's a big advantage for the Packers to be at Lambeau Field, but it is still an advantage. It's still because of their rabid fan base. I mean, if you talk about how all the fan bases travel, maybe we could get into a discussion with that sometime. I don't think any fan base travels better than the Green Bay Packers, and especially their home. It's a big community thing. I look for obviously a close game. I could see this game going into overtime, actually, believe it or not, with the Eagles getting the last touchdown, Saquon Barkley scoring a touchdown. Eagles win 26-20 in overtime. How's that for like a bold pick? No, not such a bold pick, but I'm calling it an overtime game. Eagles win.
Fair enough. I think the Eagles win a close one as well. Yeah, I'm like you. I picked the Packers to win that game, and I really was disappointed in that, particularly because I don't like the Carolina Panthers. Sonya, if you're out there, I know you feel the same about the Saints. Uh, but I just didn't think that it was, forget me not liking them. I just thought that the Packers were the better team at home. And I was surprised by the Panthers, and I have to give them what credit is due. You went there and you pretty much beat them up. And how do you bounce back from a game like that if you're at home and you lose to the Carolina Panthers and then you go up against the Eagles? You do that by playing great football. I just don't know if it's going to happen. Particularly, they lost their starting tight end in Tucker Kraft for the season with an ACL. Lucas Musgrove has to come in and play. In his spell, he was a former first-round draft. Was he a first-round draft pick? I think so.
He came out the same year that Kraft did. They drafted them both.
Yeah, exactly. So
something like that.
Yeah.
So and he's going to be made most at the deadline, which could help the Eagles a great deal going forward.
Yeah, I think that the Eagles, they're a weird. Or are they 6-2? I believe they're 6-2. I think. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of a weird 6-2 team right now too, because their offense is not great. Defense is a little in the middle somewhere there. But again, these are Super Bowl champions. Yeah, these are Super Bowl champions. Yeah, I still give them the benefit of the doubt in a very close game. I think Saquon has a really good game, and they win this game.
You know, the Eagles are now an anomaly in this sense. Their running game with Saquon Barkley hasn't really completely unfolded yet this game, and their passing game hasn't either. It's like, what exactly are they doing? But yet you turn around and they're 6-2. They're winning. And then you look at the Packers, the 3 games they didn't win. You know,
who has their offensive coordinator? That's a big difference.
Yeah. Well, but Cleveland, Carolina, they lose 2, and the Cowboys, they tie. You know, those aren't exactly 3 powerhouse teams. So, I mean, the Packers, like I said, a soft 5-2-1, and I think I got a little fooled too. The expectations became a little too high, based on how they beat the Lions in the opening game of the season. Not only beat the Lions, but did it convincingly. And I mistakenly put too much weight on that. And credit Brian, he was calm. He said, you know, don't put too much weight on that game.
Nope.
Now, mind you, if they come out and blow this team out, then you could say, okay, I don't know what was going on with them. Maybe they figured it out, and maybe they're the team that you thought that Dennis Green thought they were, you know. And everybody else let them off the hook. But maybe not. I will see. I just think that I agree with you both. This doesn't look like a really great team. I think it's just, it is what it is.
I mean, look at Philadelphia though. Every year, the last 3 years, they started off and then the Eagles are this and the Eagles are that, but somehow they end up in the Super Bowl. Weird. But anyway, this is how they do. This is how they do during the regular season. They eke it out through. Last year was an anomaly because they had a really good offensive coordinator and they gave Saquon the ball just like they should be doing now. And that worked it all out. But now you got to listen to the little whiny receivers talking about, hey, you get the ball. So, you know, I guess, you know, I don't know. But they're still a team to be reckoned with. Their defense is a little more softer than it was last year, but they're still winning games. And considering the games that they lost to the Broncos, who are a very good team, and they're a very good defensive team. So you can't take anything. They didn't have any bad losses to bad teams. They had two losses against 2 pretty good teams. So it's not like it's, you know, but Green Bay, don't believe in Green Bay because they lost to Cleveland. You tied to Dallas when you're supposed to go there and dominate both those teams. And then you play the Panthers at home and lose, who you're supposed to dominate. And Micah Parsons, 0 sacks, 0 pressures on the Panthers, who don't have the greatest offensive line in the world. So what's going on? See, this is what Micah Parsons takes games off. This is what he does. And this is what he did in Dallas too, to the detriment of Dallas. But I think this is what Jerry Jones was talking about. You got to listen to sometimes what he says. He's not the clown that everybody always makes him out to be. Sometimes he is, but he does talk some sense. He knows his players that he had. So looking at that, and then looking at the fact that, Philly, you guys got this in a close game, but I think Philly blows this open. I think they win like by 10 points. I can't see this being a close game. I just can't.
Do you think Quinnen will? I mean, we pretty much finished the games, but do you think Quinnen Williams could be as good on the Cowboys as Micah Parsons was for the Cowboys?
Yeah. Well, as far as run stopping, he's the best run stopping defensive lineman in the NFL. So that'll help. And that's what Jerry wanted. Didn't he say that all along? He wanted to stop the run?
Yeah, Parsons, the great pass rusher, a lot of pressure. Parsons is having a good season on balance. Let's not make him out like, he's faulted since coming to the Packers. He's having a good year.
And my question to you is, I mean, to you both, does Kenny Clark and Quentin Williams play together on a defensive line? Would they have packages where they put them both in there with the defensive ends, or where they sub and play them one at a time? Or
just remember, they have another defensive lineman, a defensive tackle. They just paid a lot of money to. What's his name? It's a long.
I know you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So they just paid him. So it could be him working it. They have like a dominating front line if you look at it. Because Kenny Clark can come in there and take a give everybody else a rest for a couple of plays, and you really haven't changed anything. But running up the middle, you might as well forget that kind of stuff for the rest of the teams that are playing them for the rest of the year because it's not happening.
Well, Jerry's going to have to deal with at some point with Quentin Williams' contract and how far he's willing to go. If he could sign Quentin Williams and be comfortable with whatever deal he makes, then it was viable to give up a number 1 and number 2 draft choice because whoever you were going to draft first, logically, you weren't going to get a better player than Quentin Williams.
Right.
Yeah, he was still young enough who could give you some.
That's what I was going to ask. How old is Quentin Williams? How old is he?
27.
I think he's 27 now. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This.
2 years left after this one on his contract, but this is the problem. When guys, even they have a year or 2 left in their contract, there's a lot of discontent. There's a lot of noise you have to deal with. Look, let's say Jerry Jones was able to tune out all the noise with Micah Parsons and it didn't bother him. He could have franchise tagged Micah Parsons. He could have ignored any Micah Parsons talk, saying, look, either you take this money or retire. Tough luck. And if Micah Parsons wasn't going to play well, he was going to hurt his future value.
The only difference here is that Quentin Williams doesn't have the leverage that Micah Parsons had. He doesn't have the leverage because he kind of hurt this year, and he's got to show that he can actually play and put up the stats to back up what he's got to say. So I mean, and we're half the season in, so this will be his first game, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
With the Cowboys. So I mean, you got to play out this half a year, come in and be great the next season, and then consider if he's coming out the gate next year, then maybe he has some leverage. But he doesn't really have any leverage right now because again, he's kind of hurt.
The leverage is if he's outstanding, Quentin Williams, Jerry Jones can't afford not to sign him. Because it's the Micah Parsons situation revisited. The fans are going to be all angry. If Quentin Williams plays well, he's going to be the heir apparent to Micah Parsons in Dallas, like Cooper Flagg is to Luka in a certain sense with the Mavs.
I think the thing about Dallas, unfortunately, Dallas is on a bye this week, so that works out really well for Quentin Williams to get healed up and everything. But once he comes in that lineup, he's got to hit the ground running. I really believe that he's got to show his mettle. I believe he will too. He's on a new team. He gets a new stretch.
He's a heck of a player.
It's just like Sauce Gardner.
Sure.
Sauce Gardner's playing right now, as a matter of fact, for Indianapolis. So he's out there. He's got to hit the ground running. With a couple of injuries that the Colts have, he's got to step up.
Yeah. But what's the score?
Score is 7-6 Atlanta and first.
Can you imagine how they scored their touchdown? Who knows? I don't know. I mean, could you imagine it was on a pass play in Sauce's direction?
No, I think it was actually it was a running. It's 7-7 now. They just tied it up.
I mean,
it was a running play, Algier.
My feeling is I would have liked to have seen Sauce be a career Jet, but he was only in his third year. It wasn't like the Giants with Saquon Barkley, where Sauce hadn't established himself yet as being on the way to being a legacy player for the Jets. You like organizations that have legacy players who are there the whole time, who have a lot of years. You hate to see it cut out from under them, like after 6-7 years, they go elsewhere. And what's their legacy going to be? Look, we just had a baseball season. Freddie Freeman, he's been with the Dodgers only 3 years. He'll be with them a few more years, then retire. But they've been winning Is his legacy going to be as an Atlanta Brave, a Dodger when all is said and done?
Look, I think Sauce Gardner. I disagree with the Jets trading away they're great assets, but that's just me. I just think those are young enough players where maybe Quinn and Williams, but I would have traded Sauce Gardner. I just think that you gave up a very difficult type player to find in the draft. I don't see any guys like that in this year's draft coming up, and I just think that was a tough decision. But that tells me that they just gave up and they want to rebuild and do something different. But in my opinion, I disagree with both trades. I just think they should have kept their guys and figured out what it is they need to do on offense.
Cornerbacks are really hard to find in the first place. It's very rare when you find good cornerbacks coming out of college. So, yeah, that probably would not have been a trade I would have made. But I understand what they're doing. I do. There's just, like I said, they're following a blueprint that the Lions has set out, and that because AG's from that tree. He's just trying to follow that same blueprint. And like I said, it's all on a GM. If he can make good picks in a draft, that's what counts. You can get all them draft picks. Oh, yeah, we got ones and one. But it's what you do with them. If you can't draft well, that's going to be a stretch. But anyway, on that note, we will bid you good people adieu. Again, I'm BA. We got Jack Hurst and James Martin with me. We all wish you a good rest of your day. Again, tomorrow morning, it's Jack and Keith on the Weekend Playbook, and Jack at 7 p.m. with Frank. Well, actually, it's going to be his birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday there, Jack. We'll have the glove fist tomorrow, but it will be Frank and hopefully a guest.
Boxing historian Don Majeski is going to be filling.
There you go, Don.
Listen to him; he knows the sport inside out.
He does. I listen to him. He's pretty good on his stuff. But anyway, everybody have a good rest of your day. Peace.